welcome to the Mystical Journey. We're here today with two wonderful women that I've met when my son Luca started doing martial arts. And I think for me it was so great to come in a studio that two women were running, because it was such like a woman power, you know, and then the message that you guys were giving during the classes was so incredible and touching. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves.
All right, I'm Maria Turnhout. I'm 5th degree black belt and part owner of KMA Black Belt Champions. Been training for about 30 years, not only in the martial arts, but in many of the esoteric arts as well.
And I'm Laura Welch. I am a 1st degree, 2nd degree black belt. And I have a background in child psychology and have just enjoyed and loved working with people and family in our community.
So how did you guys get started with martial arts first? Did you guys practice when you were children, or did it come later in life?
It came a little bit later in life. I was always active, always physical with different activities, but was just a little bit bored with running and wanted to try something different. So I went and checked out a martial arts studio in Toronto, loved it. I started training and came back and said to Maria, I think you would love to train in the martial arts, and that's how we kind of got started.
And I was resistant.
Yeah.
I was. Really? It wasn't even on my radar. I'd never thought about it, and I was like, oh.
What were you doing, like physical activities before?
Yeah, I played high-level field hockey in Canada, and when I retired from that, I was looking for something, but really martial arts was not on my radar. But on my first class, I was like, wow, what is this? And I was super coordinated and super athletic, and I felt like I had two left hands when I first started. And that's kind of the beauty of martial arts, because even though you can be really athletic, it really fine-tunes your body in many different ways, and your mind. It was really incredible. And I think I was really interested in the changes that I saw in people after studying martial arts. And it wasn't just physical changes, it was mental, emotional changes, especially in the young ones. And I always thought, why? What does martial arts do to pull this out of people? And nobody could really explain it. So I would always arrive early and watch classes and try and figure it out. And I just think it kind of boiled down to, they were really starting to understand themselves physically. They were starting to understand themselves physically within the world as well. I mean, there's so many different layers that we've found out now of what martial arts does for somebody. And it all starts with, I think, our proprioception. Because if we have great proprioception, which means where we are in space and time, then we trust our bodies. And then when we trust our body, then we start gaining confidence. And then when we gain confidence and start moving through the world, we realize that, you know, we can do certain things, and we start to honor ourselves. So it's kind of multi-layered from the bottom up.
Right? And there's not a lot of sports where your partner's not opponents, where you're working. If I get better, you get better.
Yeah.
And there is that healthy respect for that space that you can do that.
And you know, it's interesting because we're deemed a fighting sport and a martial sport, but we look at it from a totally different perspective, and that is to build your own honor. And so yes, we spar, we fight, but at the same time, when we step away from it, we don't have to, because when you're able to understand your personal self and understand what you're capable of, then you take on that essence. And when you're walking through the world, because we're frequency beings,
Yeah.
we're energetic beings, and 90%
People
of
sense it. You
communication,
sense your,
totally. And 90% of our communication is nonverbal. And so when you're walking through the world and you've learned how to be courageous, and you've learned how to honor yourself, and you've learned how to look somebody in the eye and really, as you said before, show that respect, and you're communicating that all the time, then you're giving to others. Because I'm just, it's so important that we raise ourselves up so that we can show the way for other people. And I mean, you're both very accomplished, and your accomplishments, you are beaming that out wherever you go. And again, it shows the way for other people to follow, and it's so important. Right now I feel that so many people are followers, and there's this social consciousness where I have to do it because everybody else is doing it. And right now, social consciousness is not so positive. They're really steering us into, okay, it's the monetary issues.
All this stuff. So much is being pushed into people's psyche.
It's so important for people to have their own mind and to have their own being and walking through the world at their own pace.
I'm curious also because I know, I don't know you as well as Coralie does, but we were talking about, spirituality and more stuff. So what got you, because you're connecting the two, because I know martial arts is also known for having that spiritual aspect to it. Do you do meditations in your classes, or you just do that on your own? Do you instill that kind of learning to the people that you're teaching, or is it like a personal thing?
All of that.
Okay.
It's when we opened this school, this is our second location, when we opened this school, it was with the premise of, how do we want them to be at black belt, or how do we want them to be after yellow belt? So we have a definite plan for them, and for kind of breaking down their belief systems. It's not just martial arts, because as Laura said, belief systems in children are, by the time they're 8 years old, it's really amazing how hardwired they are already, and how they see themselves in the world. And so it was always our mission to really hold them to a higher standard without them even knowing it. We hold space for them to release their anxieties, to release their fears, to come face to face with their fears sometimes in class, and to be able to move through it in order for them to understand that, okay, I can do this, I am enough. And I think that I'm sure everybody's like this, but when I first started teaching, I always thought of boy, am I enough? Am I enough to, stand in front of 300 plus students and deliver a message? And once I became stronger at that, then kind of the program fell into place. And it is a lot of spirituality, it's a lot of philosophy to break down those belief systems. I mean, we have a really strong adult program. We've been talking about kids, but I've had adults that after they do a form or after they do some intense workout, they actually break down and cry. And it's because they're releasing that emotion that's in your DNA. You're right, it's in your body. And so that really is kind of the basis of what we do. We want to release that energy that's just not good for them. And to replace it with, I can, yes I can. And that's why we designed the program where you have to test in front of your peers, and all your families and friends are here cheering you on. And it's coming face to face with what you don't like sometimes, to realize it's okay.
Judgment is a hard one for us, I know.
Our personal judgments. Absolutely. We have to get beyond that. But I think it's each of our responsibilities to get beyond that, so that we can broadcast a different frequency so that everybody benefits from it. So yes, we meditate. We have our students meditate. We do leadership programs also where they have to meditate. So we teach them how, and people really love it when
Yeah.
they take the opportunity to have a bit of a framework on how to do it.
Yeah. So you do like a more guided kind of
Yes,
meditation.
yeah. Yep. And in class, philosophy is very, very
Yes.
important. And I think for us, and when we teach our leadership team or our instructors, when they first come in to start teaching with us, we remind them that we're not teaching them, we're actually teaching 7 generations from now.
Mhm.
And so we really instill that.
Yeah.
And that's when we're in front of these kids and we're teaching a 6-year-old, you know, they're going to teach the same thing 6 generations
Yeah.
from now. I think that's really
Yeah,
important.
that's
It's a
how much
different
it affects. Yeah,
responsibility.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe if we all had that kind of mind frame, then we'd be kinder to each other. And
Yeah.
So do you
Yeah.
guys start your day with meditation, or do you do it later, or?
I like starting the day with meditation. We also do breath work, and
Yeah.
you know, during this whole craziness in the world, we've been doing breath work and plunging. So
What's plunging?
In the
cold
pool.
water,
Cold
ice water.
I do my cold shower every morning.
Do you?
I do that
Uh-huh.
I don't.
Yeah.
We don't have the ice bath yet.
We're so fortunate to be living in this time because you can find out anything,
about anything.
anything, and that's really extraordinary.
Yeah.
But then there's so much.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, what are you going to focus on?
And that's why I think martial arts is so important at this time, because you know it's taking that emotional energy from your day and you run it through your body and you release it, and
Yeah.
that is
And it's also that connection and human to human. I
Yes.
feel like, you know,
Mhm.
that we don't have hardly anymore.
right.
Almost human to human and within
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
right? It's that
Yeah.
connection that,
Yes,
that
true.
is so important, and that we don't, because of judgment or because of
Yeah.
all these other things, we don't go within
Yeah.
Mhm.
often enough.
It's true. Were your families surprised when you decided to pursue martial arts and open your own studios, or it's been a journey so that they knew that this was going to happen? I mean, because I'm thinking depending on your family life that you had growing up, it can be different.
It's an interesting question, because I think both of our families were supportive of us opening the school. But my youngest sister was down last year, Judy, and she came and watched us. And she said to Marie and I after, she said, "I had no idea this is what you do." Like she
Yeah.
thought it was
Yeah.
like just she could see the connection.
Just kicking and
she could
punching,
see
Yeah.
and it's, I mean, that's the impression of martial arts, right?
Yeah.
Kicking,
Mhm.
Yeah.
not about you becoming stronger, not
Yeah.
about, you know, all
Yeah.
those
It's a
things. So
deeper
yeah.
level of.
But although I have to say though, to your credit, that not all martial arts studios are like KMA.
But maybe also because your background with
Well,
like
Maria's got a
psychology.
background in child psychology
Yeah.
too, but I think I think what sets us apart is that we intentionally do it. I mean, our
Yes.
Yeah.
focus has always been on the philosophy and how we can use martial arts as a tool to inject
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
lessons,
Do you
right?
think that because you're both women, it had a different, like when you started it, you had to position yourself that we're doing it intentionally. You
More
know,
nurturing, maybe.
Not nurturing, but more, you know, a man can do that easily in a way, and you know, he opens up his studio, but you guys really wanted to do this, and you had like a broader perspective on things, and I don't want to say that, you know, men.
No, I understand.
Do you understand what I mean? It was because it's rare.
You know, it is, and it was back then.
Yeah, even
When we
more.
first opened our very first school, there was probably, gosh, less than 10 in North America of women-owned business,
Yeah.
martial arts business. But what is super interesting is, you know, I have friends in all different professions, lawyers, rabbis, and they experience a really great level of suppression sometimes, or
Yeah.
but you know, in the martial arts we have had nothing but positive experiences I used to go to seminars, and it might be me and one other woman, and the rest are men, and they were so awesome. They were so welcoming. They were with open arms, and you wouldn't think that in the martial arts. And maybe it was the community that we surrounded ourselves with, and it was a very professional martial arts community. And I learned so much from that whole community. So we've been really fortunate that way.
And I think from the beginning when we started, I mean, you dealt with that "am I enough?" the teaching aspect of it, going into those environments
Early on, yes.
early on.
Yeah.
But
As soon as I got over that, I didn't have any problems with.
and they've been great.
Yeah.
We have a funny story though. When we first opened this school, we were laying mats, and it was probably about 9:30 at night, and this guy comes walking in the school, big guy, and he says, "Did you get the blessing of Master so-and-so to open up this school?" And I was like, "Whoa, 1960, here we are." And it caught me off guard because it was the craziest question. And I'm like, should I have? I was like, and he goes on to ask if we had fight night. Do you have fight night? And I'm like, no, we don't do any of that. And he kind of just wandered away, and I haven't seen him since. But that was the most bizarre moment ever. Because that's how it used to be in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
Schools would come together and
Yeah.
have fight night, and it was tougher. And no, I think we're beyond that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, is that really it's not the deep philosophy, right? It's just people taking something and making it into something else.
Right.
They're trying to model to the Western views or how it was in the 60s, probably.
Yeah, that was, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So I thought, I think we have a place here.
Yeah.
But no, it's been great, and it's been a true honor to be able to stand in front of all our students and be able to deliver our messages day after day. And what's been really amazing and powerful is we get emails and messages from students that we taught 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're saying thank you so much, and how much we've learned from you, and it's impacted my life, and I teach my kids what you taught me, and it's really,
It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure it has such a deep impact. Because Luca to this day, I don't think has ever done anything as difficult as the black belt testing to this day, because it was such an amazing training. You know, the push-ups and then the running in the canyon, and I mean, it was pretty incredible. And most of it I don't know because it's secret.
It is. But we set it up for a reason. We want it to be their personal Olympics. We want it to be hard. We want them to remember. But it's hard, but it's not a hazing. I've been at some black belt testings where it was almost a hazing, and that just crosses the line. We structure it so we build them up. So when they actually do the testing, they're absolutely prepared. We don't send anybody for a black belt test knowing that they're going to fail.
Yeah.
Because, you take that time to build up the confidence and then you say you fail.
Yeah.
That's just wrong.
Yeah.
So we have pre-testing, we have structure in place so that, if we know that it might be a challenge for them to pass the black belt testing, then we'll put them on a different cycle. So we'll take 4 more months, and we'll work with their physical endurance and maybe their techniques, and then set them up for success. So it's a challenge, but we set them up because we know they can do it, and we set them up for success.
Yeah, that's one great aspect to not have the humiliation of getting to the end and.
Nobody should have that. And that's, again, it goes back to the respect factor.
Yeah.
We respect them, they respect us,
Yeah.
and so we come together and we create a program so everybody is successful in what they need.
Yeah.
Really important.
Great.
Yeah. Now coming to something that's going to be different, but similar in the same way, more in the spirituality. Because you guys are the one who introduced me to Dr. Garcia, for instance, and when I had thyroid cancer, and I remember coming and you were both, we don't know what your philosophy is, but we're going to see him. So how did that all start? Did you grow up with more natural medicine, more an openness to that type of philosophy, or did it come with the martial arts too, in a way?
That's a good question.
For me, my mother was more of a natural, nurturing person. She understood that it started from a strong foundation of nutrition and getting out in fresh air. I grew up in a small town where we were free, and we learned the value of respecting nature and protecting nature and working with nature. I remember in my 20s that I was really had a point of disillusion because I thought, wow, if this is it, I'm gonna go crazy. So I was always seeking something. And I think back then, internet was just starting. Right, ladies?
Yeah.
So then you could start to do a little bit of research and be able to find who was teaching what. And so that really opened up my world. And books became more accessible about different philosophies and spiritual teachings. And so I dove into it. I dove in and I read it all, and I took what I liked and what resonated with me, and I left the other behind. And as you were saying before, one thing leads to another.
Yeah.
And so you go through this teaching, and then all of a sudden you're introduced to another teaching.
Yeah.
And so these veins or these threads keep leading you to a higher level or a greater understanding. So that's kind of what my journey was.
Yeah, I think that's true with the greater understanding, because we've all had different teachers through our lives, and parents do set the foundation. And I feel very confident in myself and my day-to-day with things, but to explore different things, it wasn't until we got down here that I actually met Dr. Garcia, and there was just something resonated. It was just like, I want to learn
special.
from you.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was to this day. I just trusted my intuition, and it was like, we need to go study with him. And now it's 12 years later, I think. It's
it was, for me, it was a pretty intense first time when I went to see him, because it was a day before my surgery, so it made it even more intense. But
But you felt safe and
I felt completely safe,
taken care of, and
completely,
heard.
and then it completely gave me a different perspective, and I left, I felt light. So for the next day for my surgery, where before I was struggling with the whole thing, I felt like, it's okay.
Right.
And then what I like about him too, and he's going to be someone
Yeah,
we're
he's
interviewing,
gonna be in one of the
um,
next episodes.
But he starts where you are. He's not blaming you for something that you did.
Right.
Okay, you did this and that. Okay, we'll start from there. No blaming or no shaming, and that is a big one for me.
But one of the great gifts, I think, that we have always done with the school here is, energetically, when you walk into our space, you're responsible for the energy that you bring into the room, and we hold it to a higher standard in that we expect you to be the best that you can be when you come in here. And it's work, because when I say it's work, people that don't kind of step into that space, they never last very long.
Right.
In this environment, because the community has created it, and I think we hold that space. And our black belts hold that space. Our instructors hold the space.
And it's a total belief. Like, when they come in, I see them as black belts already. And so it's that total belief that they feel, and so they trust it, and they trust the process. And as Laura was saying, our black belts are such a huge part of the team now. So when people are testing, we'll have 30 black belts here to support them. and to encourage them.
This is amazing.
And
Yeah.
so
It's
now
really
they're the ones that are really responsible for the space. And
Yeah.
so that's really exciting, and we feel just so honored for
And
that.
I think the gift in that is that each one of them has appreciation and gratitude for the energy that they can
Yeah.
bring,
Mm-hmm.
and it's responsibility,
Yeah.
and that's what we need inside
Yeah.
these four
Mhm.
walls. I mean,
Mhm.
that's what the world needs right now.
We call ourselves Taekwondo, that's our base, but we're more of a blended style.
Yeah.
We have Krav Maga as our self-defense, we do weapons more from
Yeah.
karate, we spar American-style kickboxing, forms are Taekwondo. I just think it's amazing when people are able to put themselves out there and be able to try and to accomplish and to, you know, realize they're more than they thought they were. Because I think that
Yeah.
when they can do that and honor themselves, they change their world and they change everybody else's world
I
around them.
agree.
Yeah.
100%.
And that is the foundation of why we run this school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is absolutely the foundation.
Mhm.
Because you know that when it is,
Yeah.
when you're your best, it influences your family,
Yeah.
it influences
Absolutely.
everyone around
Yeah.
you. And I think that's how we make this world better.
Mhm.
And it's so interesting because we're in the profession of teaching how to kick and punch and fight, but it's our belief that when you create that strong mind for yourself and you're able to hold that compelling vision for something greater for yourself and something greater for your community, that's change. I don't agree with, you know, let's fight to
Yeah.
get what we want. I
Mhm.
think everybody needs to come together and really hold that higher level of thought and vibration and
Yeah.
energy to create change.
Mm-hmm.
What would be like a good recommendation for someone who's never done meditation? How do you start?
Oh yeah, and that's, you were mentioning this because I was teaching something that was up here and I thought that they would get it.
Yeah.
And they really weren't. And Laura's like, you have to remember that people are in kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and it was just such a great analogy so that you can, you know, just drop those jelly beans. And I think for us, it's dropping those jelly beans first. Of, you know, what your mind could do. And I'll talk about studies that have been done, you know, with the mind and get people interested so that they actually start asking us instead of me saying, you need to do this, because that never works.
Yeah.
You have to pique somebody's interest and, you know, maybe suggest some books and then,
And I
but
think for meditation, for some people, like for some of the parents or some, they just don't have a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
So to expect them to sit down and do an hour-long
Meditation.
meditation, you lose them in the conversation
Yeah.
because they're like, oh my God, like they just glaze over, right? I
Right.
can't do that.
Yeah.
And so it's been easier, I think, for people when you shorten the meditation at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because for some of them, just to sit and be
Yeah,
with
it's hard
themselves for
to
a few
sit.
minutes.
Yeah.
Is
I mean,
hard.
I have
Yes.
days too, even though
Yeah.
I do 1 hour plus meditation. Sometimes there's days where my mind won't sit still, and I
Right.
believe like some people are, you know, if you have kids, if you have like work, like urgent work stuff,
Mhm.
if you have like house things going, like whatever you have going on,
Mhm.
it's so hard to keep your mind still sometimes.
Right.
And for people that are not used to sitting
Right.
still, because nowadays, when do you sit still? You know?
right,
But I
And everything is quick.
yes.
From some of the things that I've more read on meditation, and it seems to be there's different aspects of it. I mean, first, if you have a thought, it's normal, right? You
Mhm.
just let it go through,
go.
you notice it, and then you let it go, right? But then there's some meditation I feel that they say try to think of nothing, and others who say focus on one thing.
I personally am a fan of guided meditation
Okay.
because that keeps me in line.
So you listen to a recording?
Yes. And
Okay.
it's guided meditations are really great for me because, as you said, when you're busy and you have a lot on your plate, your mind starts to wander a little bit. So guided meditation keeps you on a path, so you can actually, feel that you're on that path and that you're going somewhere.
Yeah.
But at the same time, being able to go into consciousness and make that contact.
I mean, I agree.
And in classes, when we do short meditations at the beginning before we start class, the reason we do it, and I know a lot of martial arts schools don't do it, is we want to bridge their day, and there has to be a transition point. So when they come in, obviously we've got a lot of very professional adults that are training with us, and so they're running in from their work, and they've got their kids, and quite often their families are here training, so they have to say hi to their families before they jump out on a class, and so they just need a moment to transition. And I think with them starting to understand what transition points are and how to do that, then their curiosity is piqued, because when they can get good of being able to drop into their space, then they understand, I can do this, I can do a little bit more of a meditation. And I think that's the starting point where they get interested.
Yeah. Do you agree? Guided
I
meditation?
do agree, and I think when you were just speaking there, I was thinking about when you said about dropping in. I think that's the beauty of what we do with martial arts, whether it's a meditation that people expect where you sit down and take a moment with the transition, or it's a meditation in a different way where some of our students, when we say drop in, they can drop in and execute and perform and show a kata with such intensity. It's just a little bit different, but it's
moving meditation.
It's moving meditation and dropping in a different way.
And it's really astounding, because some of our black belts are so good. Like, many years ago, I backpacked through Asia, and when I was in Nepal, I was in the mountains, and I hear the donkey train coming, and so I'm like, oh my God, because these paths are so small, and you look down and it's 20,000 feet down one side and a cliff going up on the other, and so you have to find like a crevice to get into so that you can be flat, so that the donkey train can go by. But what I found was so amazing was, all the supplies go by, and then you have these Nepalese and Tibetans that are carrying like 400 pounds on their back. And again, 20,000 feet down one side, the path is like this wide, and they have this load on their back. But when I was watching them go by, they were almost in a trance. So that they didn't have any anxiety about the 20,000 feet or where and that's what I see in some of the black belt students, where they're almost in such a trance when they do their forms. It's such a deep kind of meditative state that I am just floored by them, and so honored to see that process. And even when we spar, I'm sure that you've had this experience where you're on the highway and that car right there is going to pull in front of you, and they never put their blinker on, right? But they're going to do it. Well, that's because you're so relaxed driving that your antennas are up, right? And you know what they're doing. Well, I see that in our sparring class too, that a lot of our students get so good when they spar that their comfort zone is really great within the chaos, right? They're that center of chaos, so that they're so focused and they're so dropped in that they can feel what their opponent's going to do. And I think that is the coolest. It's the coolest thing for us to watch, but it's amazing when they experience it. Like, the connections that they make when they actually experience that is so exciting. Because they're going to take that and they're going to use it everywhere else. So when things get crazy in their life, they're going to be that calm in the center of the storm.
What would you have as an advice for anyone? What do you know about life, about the universe, about anything that you want people to know?
Oh, for me, I think it's honor yourself, so that the world changes. I think the world will change when we all absolutely honor ourselves and our path. Yeah.
Ditto.
Yeah.
No,
No,
but
it's
it's
true.
true.
It's
It's
very
true.
powerful
I mean, it
because it starts
starts-
with you. That's
Yeah.
what they say. Peace
does.
starts within you,
Yeah.
and then you can like.
And I think
Yeah.
it's I mean, you mentioned it earlier about the personal responsibility, and I think it's allowing ourselves to be kind to ourselves and to be open to looking at the layers and the belief systems and because so many times this is the way that it is. This is how I was brought. That's just the way I am. And it's like, well,
You
that's
can
how you
change,
are.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you look at it, then you can do something about it.
Yeah.
And having that, once you know better,
Yeah.
you have to do better.
Yeah,
Mhm.
being responsible for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And breaking any cycle that you don't want to continue.
Right.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a huge one. We deal with what we're dealing with so that Tay doesn't have to deal
Yeah.
with it, right?
Mhm.
Or nieces,
Yeah.
nephews,
Yeah.
whoever it is.
Yeah.
You look at it.
Very true.
Well,
Mhm.
thank you
Alright.
so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
It was a real honor to be here talking to you both.
Yes.
So
Very
thank
much
you.
so.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.